How's everybody doing? Alfred Flores, CEO, President of New Age Electric. So today we're going to talk about a section in underground installations, which is in Article 300, General Requirements for Wiring Methods and Materials. And then we also have to jump into other articles such as Article 310, Conductors for General Wiring, and then it just spans across into the tables for your conductors. So let's jump into it. Okay, first and foremost, we're going to be talking strictly only underground installations. It's most people, mainly the engineers and electricians, will just tell you that, underground installation, we got to use XHHW. Okay, fair enough. But you might ask why. You should always ask why. Ask questions. You just don't want to be told that's the only way to do it. You want to know why, how, where did they come up with, where did they even get this information from. I'm going to explain a few things. Doesn't mean that you can or you can't, or you can use whatever you want. Use this as a backup and use this as knowledge so you could just better understand why we do the things we do in the field and how the engineers put together, drawings. So we're going to talk about 300.5 underground installations. There's a minimum cover requirements for direct buried cable, conduit, and other raceways shall be installed to meet the minimum cover requirements of 300.5. Now here's the one we want to talk about: wet locations. And I'm going to jump into the next article and why this is important. Because this is the first before Conductors in General Wiring, Article 310. So the interior of enclosures or raceways installed underground shall be considered to be a wet location. I'm going to explain next why that's important. Insulated conductors and cables installed in these enclosures or raceways in underground installations shall comply with 310.10c. Here's the hint. If you don't know why you have to comply with this, this is our next area we have to go to. 310.10c. So sorry about that. I had the doorbell was going off, so I had to mute it. I apologize. So, all right. So we have to jump into 310.10c to understand where the wet location is coming from when associated with conductors. So we are going to jump to 310.10c. So here is 310.10. So we need to go to C. So I'm going to flip the page in front of me too, because I have the book to follow along. Wet locations. So insulated conductors and cables used in wet locations shall comply with one of the following. Now this says one of the following, does not state all. So it can be used for any one of these three. And I'm going to jump into this further of why most likely the engineers are choosing XHHW. From my personal opinion, from just reading this book over and over and over. 1. Be moisture impervious, metal sheathed. B types: MTW, RHW, RHW-2, TW, THW, THW-2, THHW, THWN, THWN-2, XSHHW, XHHW-2, and or ZW. 3. Be a listed type. Be listed for use in wet locations. Now there's a ton of cables that are actually listed for wet locations, but in this case, shall comply with one of the following. So that's the biggie. Always read these very carefully, because if it says must comply with all of the following conditions, or must be one of the two, there's a lot of those in this book. Pay attention to what those say. All right, so within the same article, you're going to have the tables with the properties of the insulated conductors. So 310.104A, so we're going to jump to this one over here. Which you're going to start seeing a table with basically all the characteristics of it. So here's the table right here. Go back. Conductor applications, insulation rated at 600 volts. Alright, so we know XHWW is one of the listed. So if you look right here, you got application provisions, dry and damp locations. So in this case, you can't use it. It's not listed for wet applications, but you see a lot of these other cables are. And we're going to go to XHHW. And just so you know, you can't use THHN because typically THHN is not listed for a wet application. So that's why, one of the reasons probably why, is you can't pull THHN underground. Alright, so we have XHHW. So you're going to see XHW-2 and XHHW. So in the 90-degree temperature column, they're giving you that you can use the 90-degree temperature column for dry and damp location. And in the wet locations, you could use the 75-degree column. XHHW2, 90-degree column only. Dry and wet locations. Here's another thing to keep in mind. There is also another section in your ampacity adjustment. So in Article 310, there's table, actually not the table itself. It is still under the 310.15 ampacities for conductors rated 0 to 2000 volts. And that would fall under, let me find it here. This one has a lot of sections to it, which is the temperature limitations of conductors. So let's jump back over here really quick. 310. All right, so here we go. 310 ampacities for conductors rated 0 to 2000 volts. Temperature limitations of conductors, and then you're going to have A, B, C, D. You're going to keep going. B, 1, 2, 3. And my next video, we're going to get into depth about the adjustment factors. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but just keep in mind, this is the next video is on this. All right, so in this particular table, there's an exemption here. Now, if you don't know what number of carrying conductors, I think this is NEC2. I believe it is. I don't require, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they have the same table in here for, when you go over 3 current conductors, you got to start derating the cable. So there's an exemption here. Let's see if I can zoom into this so you can see it better. Type XHHW2 W-2 insulated conductors shall not be subject to this ampacity adjustment. Now, I don't know if that's the reason why they like to use XHHW, because of the insulated conductor probably won't mess with the ampacity that conductor can withhold, because it actually is underground, and the heat that's produced from it can't particularly go nowhere, so that pipe would start to heat up in the inside, and you start to drop your your ampacity. I don't believe with that insulated cable itself, the adjustment wouldn't apply. Now, case in point, we're not always running a shit ton of. I apologize for swearing. We're not running a ton of cables like that underground, unless you're burying it and maybe in the slab or something like that. That might be considered wet listed location. I'm not really sure if concrete encased is considered wet listed. I think it is. But in that case, I think this may be the reason why they like to choose the XHHW. And XHHW is expensive, especially when you get up to the higher cables. So there are other cables that you can use that would satisfy the underground requirement. Guys, any questions, comments, please click subscribe. Drop them below. And thank you for watching. See you again.